Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and in this one I'm going to be testing how all of the engineer mines work in Battlefield 6. So there's 3 different kinds of mine, and you may be wondering which one is the best, what are the ranges of them, how much damage do they do, does it matter where you put them or where the tank actually hits the mine. We're going to delve into all of that. As always, if you guys enjoy the content on the channel, hit the sub button, hit the like button to stay up to date with everything Battlefield, and without further ado, let's just jump into the results here. So the first one we have here is the one you begin with in the game. It's called the M15. This is the standard anti-vehicle mine. You get 3 of these, and the description reads, an anti-vehicle mine that detonates when vehicles pass over it, placed on the ground to arm, cannot be stacked or positioned too close together. So first of all, a big thank you to Torbis for helping me with all of the testing here and being my dummy. I'll be linking his channel down below, so definitely go and check him out. Now what we found is that the M15 does 770 damage as standard. It doesn't matter where it hits the tank, whether it's behind the tank, you know, in front of the tank, to the side of the tank, wherever it is, it's always going to do that set amount of damage, so you don't need to really worry about the positioning when it comes to that too much. But one of the interesting takeaways here is that the tank doesn't actually have to directly drive over the mine with its tracks. However, it can avoid the mine by doing what is known as crawling. So if you hold control on PC, on console, I assume this is whatever binding you have for crouch, you can actually pass over the mine completely unscathed. And since they are quite difficult to spot in Battlefield 6, this is actually a really handy tactic. Now, it's also worth noting, though, that whilst this is possible, if you drive over the top of it without crawling, it's still going to detonate, and you don't even need to pass directly over it. So if I put the mine down here beside the tank, and then we have Torbis drive past it, it is still going to detonate, even though obviously in real life, you would actually have to push on one of the pressure sensors there, I think. I even tried stuff like putting the mine on top of the tank here to see if that would detonate it, and it actually did. Like, it sort of started to roll off the back, but even so, it just did 770 damage, so it's not going to result in a one-shot kill or anything crazy like that, and you're still going to need 2 of these to take down a tank. Alright, next up we have the M4A1 Slam. This is a tripwire sensor anti-vehicle mine, and the description reads, an anti-vehicle mine designed for ground and off-route placement. When nearby enemy vehicles trip the device's proximity sensor, they are targeted with a high-velocity projectile. So unlike the regular AV mine, you can place this one on the ground, but you can also place it on any surface really at all. So you can put it on a wall, and as the tank drives alongside the wall, it's actually going to fire into them. Now, the range of this, the activation range, we discovered is around 10 meters. Maybe it's 9 meters, maybe it's like 11 meters, but it looks like it's most likely 10. It's kind of difficult to pinpoint it precisely, but I would just go with that. And here you can see a bit of representation of like how close it's going to need to be to the road or wherever the tank drives along to actually get some damage. Now, how much damage you do with these actually depends on a number of factors, unlike the other mines. So the closer the vehicle is when they drive past them, the more damage it is going to do. And just like when you're RPGing a tank or you're shooting it with a tank shell or something like that, again, the direction that you hit the tank from and where you hit the tank is going to matter. By the way, if you guys want a full video going over all of the RPGs and how armor plating actually affects killing a tank, then go and check out this video here in the corner. So what is the most effective position for this mine? Well, you saw it earlier as it hit the side of the tank. The most damage we were able to get there was 262. And as we have Torbis drive over the top of a mine on the road, it does 436, hitting the undercarriage. Here, again, this time we're targeting the front armor. That one does 317 damage, even though it comes up in red, so it's like a critical hit. We're trying to put one here, again, directly on top of the tank to see what happens. Very little damage there, so definitely not worth doing. And then finally, just to show you that this works as well, if you crawl over the top of the slam mines, it's also going to stop them from detonating. But again, as he goes forward over this one, it does the same 436 damage. So I think that is the most damage you can get out of these mines, whereas we had 770 for the others. You also get 3 of these, just like the regular AV mines. So honestly, I would probably say, since putting them on the road and getting those hits on the undercarriage seems to be the most effective way to do damage, I don't really see what the point is of taking the slams over the regular mines. Yes, they have a longer range on them technically, and yes, you can put them on walls and stuff, but to me that's very situational, and most of the time you're just going to go and throw them on the roads and the most traveled areas regardless. By the way, something we kind of discovered inadvertently here, but I accidentally glitched a mine into this truck here and it wouldn't detonate, and all throughout our testing this mine survived. So it doesn't seem to matter how many times you die as an engineer, as I was constantly redeploying here in order to replenish my mines. Your mines stay on the map. I don't know, maybe there's like a total map limit for mines there, and eventually some of them will start to disappear, but this is why mines feel like they're just all over the place and they are extremely plentiful. Okay, finally, let's move on to the PTKM-1R, the Acoustic Sensor Anti-Vehicle Mine, and the description reads as follows: an anti-vehicle mine that locates targets in the immediate area via audio sensors. Once triggered, it launches an explosive payload and performs a top-down attack to strike vehicles where they are less protected. So this is the only new mine here to the Battlefield franchise. All of the other ones have been in previous games, and so I was the most excited to test exactly how this one worked. So the way this mine works, if you don't already know, is that it will detect an enemy vehicle, whether that be by sound or also line of sight, and you're going to see why that comes into it in a second. It'll then launch a projectile, and then it will do a top-down missile attack on top of the tank. And for that reason, it always does the same damage because it always hits the vehicle in the same place. And in the case of a main battle tank, it does 476 damage. So even 2 of these is not enough to take out a tank, and you only spawn in with 1 of them. Now, what I found the most intriguing about this mine is actually how its targeting works. So first of all, we figured out its maximum range is somewhere between 55 and 60 meters. You can see just when Torbase gets into range there, exactly when it triggers. But one of the cool things about it is that you can actually kind of like juke the mine into missing. So the way it works is it looks at the speed the vehicle is traveling at, and then it simply fires and predicts where it's going to be when the mine actually lands its missile on the vehicle. And so once it's fired, if you actually just let your vehicle come to a complete stop or put on the brakes, then the mine is most likely going to miss because it can't do any course corrections mid-air. However, if you don't take any turns, if you just keep on holding W, accelerating forwards at a very steady rate, then you're going to end up where the mine predicted you will be, and it is then going to connect and do damage to you. And so for this reason, the mine is more effective the closer you are, because the flight time is less, and therefore it doesn't have to predict for as long. And what this means is that sometimes the mine is only going to get partial hits and therefore not do as much damage. So whilst a full-on contact will do 472 damage, you can see in this clip here I only did 162 because Torbase kind of moved his tank in a sporadic way that fooled the mine and it didn't get that full contact. Again, you can see here, if we put it really, really close, the firing time here is just so fast. The tank really doesn't have much time to move. So, you know, if you see a tank that's close to you, this is a very effective way to use them. Just sort of plop them down somewhere close by. And as soon as that tank moves, it's going to fire and you're going to get the full damage. Now, another thing I wondered is, does this mine actually need line of sight to fire? Because if you read the description, it says it is an acoustic mine, right? It's listening to where the tank is and predicting where it's going to be based on the audio feedback. What's kind of funny here, as we put this one behind, you're going to notice as soon as it picks up the audio signal, it actually angles itself towards the direction of the tank, but it only fires once it gets the tank in line of sight. So here is a couple more examples. I'm going to put it down behind these containers here, and Torbase is then driving right behind them there. You can see it's angled, and then as soon as it gets the line of sight there, it fires, and because he kind of stopped there and did something sporadic, and he's at a fairly long range, it has missed him entirely. For this example, I'm putting it completely hidden behind the containers, so it's not going to get line of sight to him at all. So there he goes. You can see the mine has angled, so it hears the tank, and as he drives away, nothing. It's not doing anything, so it seems pretty clear it needs line of sight. I don't know if this is a bug, because it seems weird that the mine sort of detects the sound and aims in that direction, but then also needs the line of sight there. Then again, I suppose it would be a little bit unfair if tanks couldn't even see the mines that were firing at them. And here's one final example here. I wanted to give it a bit more of a chance, so I put it behind a much smaller piece of cover, an old rusty car, so a lot lower. And you can see again, as he reverses here, it did need that line of sight, and once he got close enough, it fires on him. So there you go, guys. That was the conclusion of my testing. I definitely learned a lot from doing this myself. I hope you guys learned something from watching the video. If you want my recommendation, I would honestly say just the bog standard AV mine is probably the best one to take. The slams, you get the same amount of them. They do less damage in general. The audio sensing one, you only get one of them, and it doesn't even do 50% of the tank's HP. So for that reason, I'm definitely going to recommend the regular good old mines. Obviously, they're the hardest to use because the tank needs to pretty much drive over the top of them, whereas the other two have more range, so I guess it's really up to you guys. If you discovered any interesting ways to use mines, by all means feel free to drop them down in the comment section below. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to stay up to date with everything Battlefield 6, and I will see you guys in the next one.